So we're in the very fortunate position to share truly world-class geology with a major. There's literally nobody else in the district but us two. But we're bringing a bulk mining model to the district and a lot more battery metals, a lot more nickel, copper, and sulphide, plus cobalt as well. We were very fortunate to bring over two of Ivanhoe's best geologists. Their former chief geologist is now our vice president of exploration, Dr. Danny Grobler. Everything they're seeing in the rocks is familiar to them. The same magmatic forces are at work. This is truly hitting Platreef, basically South African scale in Montana. The parallels have only just grown. We're already at 1.6 billion pounds of nickel, copper, cobalt, 3.8 million ounces of PGEs and gold. And where this could go next is pretty exciting stuff for us. Thank you for joining us on the summer solstice and in the beautiful Quebec City. It's a pleasure to be back for the second time. We are indeed Stillwater Critical Minerals and the future of critical mineral supply. If you look globally for projects with real potential for scale and grade, in fact, demonstrated scale and grade, in a producing U.S. district is a very, very short list, and we have to be on that list. We halted this morning, and that's, of course, pending news, which I can't quite speak of yet, but that we are excited about. That was a forward-looking statement, and I'm sure I'll be making more of them. We're part of the Metallic group of companies. This is a collaboration of 3 independently, publicly listed companies. We share an office. We also share a vision, and you'll see that vision here at Stillwater. District scale acquisition during the bear market, build it out into a better time, and do everything with view to take out by a major. It's basically our MO. I invite you to look at the other companies separately, Metallic Minerals and Granite Creek, all doing excellent work. And Lindsay Wilson from the group is here with me, and we'd be happy to talk more about those. For us, this means 3 district scale projects. The focus very much on that Stillwater project in Montana. That's where the 1.6 billion pounds nickel, copper, cobalt, 3.8 million ounces palladium, platinum, and gold are. And that adjoins Sibanye-Stillwater's mining complex, in fact, along about 40 kilometers. So it's the right place to expand mining. We have the Drayton Black Lake Gold Project in Ontario. That is a district scale gold position adjoining Treasury Metals. And we announced a deal with that last year to a new listing, Heritage Mining. They're doing really good work there, and if you're looking for a gold play, I've been buying myself, and I like what they're doing. And they give us, as a company, good exposure to the gold space. In the Yukon, we have the Sibanye-Stillwater project, early stage, but we really like First Nations there, and we're looking at some really good collaborative approaches. These are all district scale assets, and that is that Metallic group credo. Key point 2, we have 100% ownership on all assets. We've completed the earn-ins on all these, which is perhaps unusual among juniors. The management team, truly world-class. I know every junior says that. In this case, I mean, I invite you to have a look at the resumes online. Myself, I'm a founder of the company. Greg Johnson was NovaGold. They saw that from 10 cents a share to 2 billion in market cap. That's the model that we're following across all 3 of the Metallic group companies. In particular, I'll call out these 2, Danny Grobler, Albie Britz, who joined us last year from Ivanhoe. Danny Grobler was the head of exploration in Friedland's team there. They developed the Platreef mine for Ivanhoe, which is now in production. We have that exact geology in Montana. So my pitch in 3 words or less is Platreef in Montana. It's basically that simple. We have the whole lower Stillwater complex, and you'll see what I mean in subsequent slides here. Mike Ostis and Justin Madru worked locally there for 20 years. In fact, they drilled the core that we inherited with the project, so we've also got that local base as well. Industry partners were partnered with the U.S. Geological Survey. That's very important nowadays. They have the access to that government money. They've also been studying the Stillwater complex for decades, so there's a great depth there. These next 2 names concern carbon sequestration. ARCA UBC is doing that rock reaction, that more passive form of carbon sequestration. We have that potential at Stillwater. We're looking at it. Cornell, we're working with Grishma Gadikota on more active ways of sequestering carbon. And this is very appealing to us. Goldspot, you've probably heard of, does AI and machine learning. And we've recently brought Wolfgang Meyer in from Cardiff University. So the depth of experience here and the reach we have is growing really nicely. Montana is a very resource-friendly state. In fact, resources make up a big part of their revenue. Copper mining, they were the dominant copper producer around World War I. And that's ongoing still at the Continental Pit and other places. Chrome as well from the Stillwater Complex, as we'll touch on. This is still America's biggest and best chrome reserves. And then more recently, the palladium and platinum that our district, the Stillwater Igneous Complex, is known for down in the south of the state. The majors are active there. Rio Tinto is doing a big geophysical survey for critical minerals in the Helena area, and Ivanhoe and Rio Tinto are both active there as well. Other companies too. We share the Stillwater Igneous Complex down there in the south with Sibanye-Stillwater. This is a geologic formation you can see from space, and it's one of the absolute best in the world. And it's funny to me that Americans don't always seem to know what they have there in their backyard. The district has a good history of critical mineral production. It was producing critical minerals since before they were critical. In fact, our ground was producing copper particularly, and that moves to chrome in the war years. Interesting to note that was subsidized by the US government. So this is a district that the US government recognizes for critical mineral production. We put out, in 86, we see the start of the top mine there for the production of high-grade palladium platinum from the Stillwater Complex. And that's only expanded since with the advent of the mine there in the bottom picture in 2002. Interesting to note that the Stillwater mine is the site of that chrome mill from the war years. So there's some history there. We put out our first resource in 2021. It was kind of cobbled together from a lot of historic work plus our own drilling. And then we recently expanded that in January of this year. That's the 1.6 billion pound figure. Sibanye produces a little over 500,000 ounces of the highest grade palladium platinum in the world, and a little more than that from recycling. To date, 15 million ounces produced by our neighbor of the highest grade palladium platinum in the world, plus unreported amounts of nickel and other commodities. Together, we define the Stillwater Complex. It's very rare for a junior to share such world-class geology with a major like this. Our claims are in yellow, Sibanye-Stillwater in gray. Sibanye, of course, bought Stillwater for $2.2 billion in 2017, just as we were acquiring what you see in yellow. That's where the 1.6 billion pounds, 3.8 million ounces are. The district in modern history has been defined by that JM Reef deposit, 1.8 meter thick magmatic reef horizon, sulphide reef, 40 kilometers long. If you think about it, it's a two-dimensional deposit. It's a remarkable thing. Over 100 million ounces, including past production, plus nickel, copper, other metals as well. They run 3 mines on that one deposit, 2 mills, and a smelter refinery complex. They're the numbers on our updated resource estimate in the base case at a 0.20% nickel equivalent cutoff in the small writing up there. That's the big figure of 1.6 billion pounds nickel, copper, cobalt, 3.8 million ounces. Huge increase over the previous one, and that was done with only really 11 drill holes, which shows our low discovery costs and how easy it is to add ounces and pounds in this district. We've run several scenarios there. It's the high-grade one that's catching the market's attention and the attention of the majors. That 12 million tons at 1.05% nickel equivalent may sound small, but it's head on into the US's only producing nickel mine and the mine that's proposed to replace it. We have good sulfur. We brag about that because this is nickel sulfide. We see good tenors of nickel in sulfide, and in fact, there are good historic flotation results to support that. We're going to get into some metallurgy work this year as part of advancing this asset. We have more nickel than people really realize. Our ticker symbol is PGE, and the district is known for PGEs. But we're about 46% nickel at a $9 nickel price. Copper, too. We have 500 million pounds of copper. Cobalt on down through the others. Palladium by value is the second at 20%. All in all, we've got a nice internally hedged mix there of commodities, which we're finding that the majors actually find quite attractive. 2/3 battery metals, though, is a key point. How do we compare with existing and proposed US nickel peers? You've got on the right our base case in nickel equivalent, and then just within that, the mid-grade case, and on the far left, the high-grade case. The Eagle Mine is the only producing nickel mine in the US. It's a beautiful underground high-grade operation. It's expected to close in a couple of years due to depletion, and it will have produced about 440 million pounds total. That's a little under what the US consumes every year in its total run. The US consumes about 480 million pounds a year of nickel, and that's about the total endowment so far at the Tamarack project being developed by Talon, another excellent project, but small. Our base case total is already larger than both of those put together. And of course, our high grade component is going right on to them in terms of size and grade. And we're in a district that's produced historically and is currently producing and expanding. This is a very meaningful slide. This is our work in geophysics. It's an IP survey. In pink, you've got chargeability. In blue, you've got conductivity. And in yellow, looking rather small just due to scale, you've got the 43101 deposit bodies. It's actually 5 deposits across 9 kilometers. And they really look like they want to connect where they're set in that fantastic kilometer scale geophysical and coincident geophysical highs. That is the 1.6 billion pounds, 3.8 million ounces. When we look at grade, we're pleased to report 13.2 meters at 2.3% nickel, 3.3% nickel equivalent when you bring in the 1.5 grams of precious metal, copper, cobalt, all that. And that's that one on the left, of course, there. Right on the west edge of the existing block model at Crow Mountain, something we're going to focus on this year with the drill and expansion work. All of these hits, percent level nickel across 9 kilometers, they all have an envelope around them of tens of meters of lower grades, and ultimately hundreds of meters of potentially pit grade, low grade mineralization. So we're not married to any one mine model yet. We've got good optionality on that. And it's probably worth noting that the JM Reef sits right next there. You can see it as the thin red line across the top. With its 100 million ounce endowment. And in fact, Sibanye is mining just about 2 kilometers underground from our Crow Mountain work. If you lay on top of that a soil survey that was done in 2006 and then in 2019, you can see that the soil is lighting up with nickel and copper across many kilometers. It's a thing of beauty, and it corresponds so nicely with the IP survey underneath, especially in this sort of triangle shape at Iron Mountain. There's a lot for us to follow up on here. We have way too many drill targets. And this year we will focus drilling on the Crow Mountain area. Probably should go back for that. We're going to focus drilling on the hybrid DR, the CZ, and the HDR, much as we've done in past years. This gets very forward-looking. But this is a long section through the Stillwater Complex, and it presents a magnetic vector inversion of a geophysical survey. We see what looks like a feeder structure down below Crow Mountain, and it makes sense with the disruption that we see in the rocks at Crow Mountain. The layers are in many places obliterated, and that fits with this sort of feeder zone theory we're developing. Can't really see it very well here, but there is a structure reaching down under Crow Mountain. The other figures you saw in the previous slides now look quite small, but that conductivity survey, for example, is just under Iron Mountain and Crow Mountain there, reaching down 800 meters. This is truly monster scale stuff, and it's appropriate for the district. The Stillwater Complex is 40 kilometers by 8 kilometers on surface and much larger beneath that. It rivals the Bushveld. Doesn't rival the Bushveld in size. There's no question the Bushveld is the largest in the world. It is very similar to the Bushveld, and that's why it's so important that we brought Danny Grobler and Albie Britz over. Our share price has done much like many others in the sector. We've been slaughtered. We're currently sitting about 18 cents. We have cash in the bank. We have about 2.2 million cash equivalents. We have currently booked helicopters and drill rigs, and we halted the stock this morning pending news that I'd hoped to be able to speak in more detail about, but it's not quite there yet. So I guess I just have to end with a watch this space. But we're excited by what comes next. And just to bring it back to the basic points, if you're looking for world scale geology and potential in an active and expanding US mining district, critical minerals, we have 8 of them that have been identified as critical by the US government. And in fact, as Phil Baker just said very well a minute ago, the US government is subsidizing now mining of these things. Majors are rushing back to the US. What comes next is permitting reform. And frankly, in this district where there are existing mines and mines are even well liked, I think we've got great potential to grow. I see 4 minutes left on the clock. I'd be glad to take any questions if anybody wants to use. I see 2 microphones, 1 and 2 here. Sure. The question is about geophysics and plans for the year. This gap really bugs me in our figure. So we've booked the IP crew to come back and fill that in, basically. And that'll be a focus in drilling too. We actually have a couple of holes from the 2000s era in that intervening period there between Chrome Mountain and CZ. And that all looks really good for expansion. So the drill will focus initially on those high-grade nickel intercepts to the west, and then it will move to that middle area as the geophysics fill that in. As you can see from these images, I didn't really run the stats, but these are very high-level anomalies and very big, and they correspond with kilometer-scale sulphide mineralization, which is what we see in the drill models. So there's a lot to grow on there, and that middle piece is particularly interesting to us. Thank you for the question. Well, thank you for your time. If there are no other questions, I'll wrap it up. Myself and Lindsay Wilson are here. We're in room A61, and please do watch for our news later today as we lift the halt. Thank you.